and gentlemen, my name is Judge Lal, and we're going to begin with our expedited accusation calendar. This is for February 26, 2025. These are cases in which individuals were recently arrested and booked at the Fulton County Jail. Soon after being booked in, their cases have now been formally accused by the Solicitor General of Fulton County. If you are an individual who's been charged with a misdemeanor offense or offenses, please remember that you have a right to remain silent. Anything that you say about the facts or circumstances of your case during this virtual proceeding, your statements can and will be used against you in the treatment of your case. You have a right to an attorney if you cannot afford one. One of our public defense counsel or a conflict defense counsel will represent you. Today, we are going to let you know what is your new case number, what are the charges brought against you, who is your attorney to set a bond, and also to give you a new court date if required. Ms. Bridgewater, do we have that court date, please?
Yes, ma'am, Your Honor. It's going to be March the 11th.
All right. For those of you who do receive this new court date, then your next hearing will be held on March 11th. 2025 at 9 a.m. And that proceeding will also be via Zoom. So for anyone who's attending it, you would need to get a Zoom link. With regards to bond, some of you may qualify for what we call a signature bond, depending on the information I receive about your case. And that's one in which you won't have to pay for the bond today, but you will have to comply with certain conditions. Failure to comply can result in your signature bond being revoked and surrendered, and changed to either a good bond or a cash bond. For those of you who do not receive a signature bond, you will receive a surety bond or maybe a cash bond. In order to secure your release, you would have to pay for the bond either out of your own pocket or through a bonding company. All right, courtroom 2, who do we have first?
Position number 13.
This is State versus Audria Royalston, accused of 2 counts of battery family violence, 3 counts of battery family violence from November 24, 2024. Ms. Royalston, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. McLean. Any prize, Mr. Howard?
26. 2012 probation, FTA. The last violent arrest was in 1998.
Thank you. Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. That's my case. This is a incident from November the 24th of 2024. At about 11:25 in the morning, police responded to 275 Griffin Street Northwest. There they met with the victim. Her name is Jania Thompson. She reported that the defendant in front of you, as well as another woman named Mrs. Carter, who'd been living with her for a period of time, assaulted her during a dispute. Mrs. Thompson, the victim, had one of the children in the home babysit for her. And these 2 women assaulted her when they were upset about the amount of money paid and how many people she was paying. Specifically, Mrs. Royalston in front of you came into the location and began kicking and striking the victim. She was seen to have bruises on her face and on her limbs and on her neck. She also was bitten by this defendant. She had a bite mark on her forearm. So the 3 counts of battery family violence are based on the fact that they're all living together at the time, that there are bruises on multiple parts of her body, bite marks, and kicking alleged here that caused injury as well. We did speak with the victim today. She's got a different address. She's requesting that the defendant have no contact with her and stay away from her residence, which is now 261 Childs Drive in Atlanta. She reported that the defendant is a family friend and had been staying with her for a period of time, that there'd been an initial violent incident and that she had not called the police during that first incident. And then this one happened. She said she sustained a black eye and a bloody nose as a result of this attack, and she wants no contact. We're asking for a $6,000 surety, Your Honor. absolutely no contact with the victim or her child, Jania Thompson. The child's name initials are DC, and to stay away from that address, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. And
The
if you sound,
I'm sorry, the Child Street address?
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And if you'd sound for Mrs. Jania Thompson, please. Thank you.
Ms. Thompson, if you want to contribute to the proceedings, you need to unmute. You need to be in a location with better lighting because we can't see you at all. Nope, not working. There we go. And please lower the device so we can, okay, and unmute.
Hello.
Hello, please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
Yes.
All right, you do not live with Miss Royalston anymore?
No.
Have you had any contact with her since November of 2024?
No.
Okay. What else would you like to tell us? Because otherwise I'm ready to move on.
I just don't want any contact with her.
Okay, thank you. You may mute your screen. Mr. McLean, anything to add?
Just that I wrote down the word local, so that means that she's been in Georgia either all her life or enough years where I just wrote down local and thought it was quite a few years. She's 55. She has an address on Boulder Woods Drive, 30316. That's a house. Maybe that was the instant location, maybe not. I don't know. I think the instant location was what, Griffin?
Griffin Street, right.
Oh, okay. So that wasn't the instant location. Very good. She has a high school education, and she has worked in security at events for a college campus, various events, concerts, taking tickets and maintaining order there. She asked the court to consider a signature bond, Your Honor. Thank you.
On each count is going to be $1,500. It's going to be a $4,500 signature bond through pretrial services. Ms. Royalston, you can sign up for your bond, but you have to comply with the following conditions. This is going to be a level 1 reporting. Ms. Royalston, you will report to pretrial once a month. You will make sure that you report to court when summoned, so you'll need to maintain a good and current mailing address with the court at all times. You are to have no further contact with Jania Thompson and her immediate family, which includes her children, her parents, and so forth, or whoever's living with her. You have to stay away from where she lives, where she works, wherever she's physically located. If you get arrested again, if you fail to report to court or fail to report to pretrial, your bond can be surrendered and amended to a $4,500 surety bond or cash bond. Thank you. Oh, and no drugs, no illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons and firearms. Thank you.
Position number 14, Mrs. Rustin.
All right, Ms. Thompson, you're free to go. This is Jamaica Ruffin, accused of battery, family violence, and battery against a female who's pregnant. And this incident appears to be from yesterday, 2025. Case number 25 CR 998E. Ms. Ruffin, you've been advised of your right to remain silent, and your attorney is Mr. McLean. Any prize?
2023 DUI dismissed. 2014 ag assault was dismissed after diversion. That's it.
Your Honor, this is an incident from yesterday. The address is 3845 Thames Road in South Fulton, Thames like the River Thames. At about 6 p.m., police were called to the location where the defendant lives with her family and the girlfriend of her brother. The victim in this case, her name's Teesia Bowler Dixon. That's spelled Teesia, capital BOLAR dash Dixon, common spelling. When police arrived on the scene, there was blood on this defendant's shirt. The victim had a obviously bloody nose. She reported that not only did the defendant know she was pregnant, but that when she went into the bathroom, the defendant followed her, locked the door behind her, and proceeded to assault this young woman. The defendant's family, including the victim's boyfriend, had to intervene to calm everything down and make the assault stop. When police spoke to the defendant, she admitted striking the victim. We did speak with Mrs. Bolar Dixon today. She confirmed that she's been living at the location with her children and the father of her children, who is the brother of this young woman, that she's been bullied by this woman since about November, that there was no argument yesterday. She has no idea what precipitated this assault. And she would like no contact. She intends on staying at the location, and so the defendant will need a one-time escort. We're asking for a $4,000 SOB through pretrial. No contact at all with Mrs. Teja Bowler Dixon. Stay away from that location. Again, that is the Thames Road, South Fulton address, 3845, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. And if you would sound for Mrs. Actually, I believe she's unable to attend today, but just in case, Mrs. Dixon.
All right, Teja Boulder Dixon, or Boulder? Bowler Dixon, yeah. All right, no such person on Zoom. Mr. McLean?
Nothing really to add, Your Honor. Georgia resident, high school graduate, has worked at Penny's in the past. Thank you.
Okay. On the battery family violence, that's going to be 2,500. On the battery against a female's pregnant, 2,500. That's a $5,000 signature bond through pretrial services, level 2. Ms. Ruffin, you can sign up for your bond today, but you must report to pretrial services twice a month. Within 30 days of being released, you will update us with your new mailing address, because you are to stay away from 3845 Thames Road in South Fulton, Georgia. You may return to that location one time only with a police officer to retrieve your personal belongings, and that visit cannot exceed 1 hour. Then within 30 days, you have to provide the court with your new mailing address. You have to have no further contact with Ms. Tesia Bowler Dixon. No illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and no firearms. Also, within 30 days, you will enroll in a domestic violence intervention program. This is a 26-week program, and you will attend each and every class without missing or skipping any of them. You will continue to report to pretrial until further order of the court. Any questions?
No.
Okay.
Next is the position number 2, Duncan.
This is State versus Shaquan Duncan, accused of 2 counts of battery family violence and 2 counts of cruelty in the 3rd degree from July 25th, 2023. Mr. Duncan, you've been advised of your rights. Your attorney is Mr. Chatay. And Mr. Howard, any priors?
4. Got an open battery DV. It's 23 CR 001 861F. Got a bench warrant out of Judge Richardson, battery DV. 2025 suspended license. That's all.
Ms. Tucker, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Judge. We are asking for a $2,500 good bond on count 1, $2,500 good on count 2, $1,000 good bond on count 3, and another $1,000 good bond on count 4, for a total of $7,000 good bonds, with conditions no further contact with Tatiana Brown, and to stay away from 3056 Imperial Circle in Atlanta. The facts of this case allege that an argument over the defendant's mother seeing their child led to this victim locking herself in the bathroom. This defendant banged on the door, forced himself in while carrying their infant child. He grabbed the victim, shoved her up against the wall, banging her head against the wall. The altercation continued down the stairs, where he pushed her on the couch, began punching her in the face, and all of this took place while the defendant was holding their infant child. The victim, Ms. Brown, had bruising, scratches, and swelling on both sides of her face, and the infant sustained a minor scratch on his face from this incident. You did hear he's got an open battery family violence case from 2023. It's against this same victim, and he was ordered to stay away and have no further contact in that case. as well as he failed to appear in that case. He's got a bench warrant out for that. So I think the risk of reoffense is apparent. The flight risk is apparent. We did attempt to get in contact with this victim. We were unable to, if we could sound for Tatiana Brown just in case. But for those reasons, that's why I'm asking for the $7,000 total good bond.
Okay, Ms. Tatiana Brown, if you are on Zoom, this will be the time for you to unmute and start your video. Okay, Mr. Chattain?
Yes, Your Honor. I just asked this court to consider a reasonable surety amount given the facts of the case and the charges. My client is 22. He's local. He's a lifelong resident of Georgia, and he has a high school diploma. And no objection to the no further contact and stay away.
So he's already got a bench warrant in the previous case. He's got a $6,000 surety bond with regards to that. And then on March 28th, 2023, Judge Morrow expressly told him to have no contact with Tatiana Brown. And that order has never been set aside or changed. So he was not allowed to be within 200 yards of Ms. Brown. And this occurred on July 25th, a couple of months after that order was issued. Mr. Duncan, due to this failure to appear, you don't qualify for a signature bond. And also because of your failure to comply with the no further contact, on each count is going to be $3,000, and that's going to be a $12,000 surety bond. No further contact. If you didn't understand it the first time, hope you understand now. You have to stay 200 yards away from Tatiana Brown, wherever she's physically located, whether it's in the home, you cannot be sharing the same house with her. Wherever she works, wherever she's physically located, you have to have no contact with any of the children that you share with her. If you plan to have any contact with the children you share with her, you would need to file a separate legitimation action in the appropriate superior court and obtain a court order to establish a parenting plan. Your next court date is going to be on March 11th, and we're going to reset both these cases, the 25 CR 988F and the older case 23 CR 1861F. And both will be addressed on March 11th, unless you bond out. But if you do bond out, please make sure you comply with the court order. Otherwise, we will be recommending an ankle monitor for you. Thank you.
Position number 3, Esther.
This is Jonathan Esther, accused of disorderly conduct on February 14th of this year. Mr. Esther, your case number is going to be 25 CR 990F. You've been advised of your rights, and I'm sorry, and your attorney is Mr. Chattain, and I'm sorry, Mr. Howell, what was it?
I got first.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Tucker?
Yes, Judge. Considering this is his first arrest, we're asking for a $1,000 signature bond with a stay away from MARTA, and we'd request a social worker visit. The facts of this case are that this defendant got on a MARTA bus, started acting disorderly, yelling profanities, spitting, trying to fight the patrons, trying to fight the bus driver. So I do believe there may be some underlying issues here. So we're asking for that $1,000 signature bond with the social worker visit.
Social worker already here in the courtroom.
Okay. Right now, he's got a $5,000 surety bond. Okay. Would you like to speak with him before we proceed?
I spoke with him already, Your Honor. There's no concerns in terms of mental health, in terms of him denying it. He's able to go through with his attorney right now.
Okay. Mr. Chattain, anything else to add?
No objection to the signature bond, Your Honor, but as to the stay away from MARTA condition, my client informs me that he's been driving MARTA buses for the past 14 years, and if the condition was imposed, he would be out of work. He tells me he could find a job somewhere else, but I'd rather make sure that he doesn't lose his job that way. Right, and we just heard from the social worker, so nothing further to add.
I was the
Okay. With regards to the disorderly conduct, it's going to be a $2,500 signature bond through pretrial services. He is to stay away from MARTA unless MARTA allows him to resume employment. Yes, Mr. Esther, we need to unmute courtroom 2. Mr. Esther, you've got a right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you. So right now I'm requiring you to, I'll give you a signature bond. You won't have to pay for it. But if you violate the conditions of the bond, or if you get arrested again for anything else, the next time you're in jail, that bond would either be a cash bond or a surety bond. I'm requiring you to stay away from MARTA property unless MARTA allows you to resume your employment. Then you can continue to work. Are you currently employed?
Yes, at MARTA.
I know, but if you are still a current employee, then you can go back there. But if you are not an employee, then you cannot return to MARTA property.
I was the victim. I was spit on and punched that word.
Mr. Esther, right now your attorney is just arguing for bond. We're not trying to decide guilt or innocence at this stage. So if you return to MARTA property and you are not an employee, you will be arrested for trespass. So if I'm just letting you know what your conditions are. If you violate the conditions, when you come back to jail, make sure you bring $2,500 with you. All right? You're to, like I said, you're to stay away from MARTA property unless you are a current bona fide employee of MARTA property. Then you can resume employment in whatever capacity you have with them. Within 15 days of being released on a signature bond, you would need to undergo what we call a BH evaluation and possible treatment. Your pretrial officer will need to get a certificate from a healthcare provider that you have undergone a behavioral health evaluation and if any treatment is required. Do you understand, sir? No illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons and no firearms. Your next court date will be sent to your current mailing address. Please be sure that we have your good address on you so that you don't skip out on court.
Okay.
Thank you. And this is a level 1.
Position number 4, Evans Ingram.
Aris Jamar Evans Ingram is accused of battery, family violence, and cruelty in the 3rd degree from December 19th, 2024. Accusation 25 CR 9918. Mr. Ingram, you've been advised of your right to remain silent. Your attorney is Mr. Chatay. Mr. Howard?
17, 2018, fleeing an officer, obstruction, possession of a firearm by convicted felon or felony first offender, possession of a Schedule 4 controlled substance. Those were convictions. 2014, 2013 probation. At a 2010 capital case that was dismissed. That's it.
Okay. Thank you. Ms. Tucker? I'm sorry, you're on mute.
Sorry about that. We'd be asking for a $2,500 signature bond on the battery, family violence, and a $1,000 signature bond on the cruelty for a total of $3,500 signature bond through pretrial with conditions no further violent contact. The facts allege that this victim, Miss Orton Kalin, who was living with the victim, with the defendant at the time, tossed his phone to try to get his attention. So he responded by hitting her with an open hand. They walked outside of their apartment and he grabbed her and dragged her back inside. All of this was witnessed by her child. She had a small scrape on her back, a bruise on her elbow, and a mark on her lip. We were able to get in contact with her. She said they are no longer in a relationship. They don't live together anymore. They don't share any children. And she no longer lives at the incident location, so we're not asking for a stay away. But she confirmed the events in the warrant, said nothing like this has ever happened before, but she hopes it doesn't happen again. She's not in fear of him, so we are only asking for that $35,000 total signature bond through pretrial and no further violent contact with Miss Kaylin.
All right, Ms. Kaylin Orton or Ms. Orton Kaylin, I'm not sure, but if you're on Zoom, this would be a good time to unmute and start your video. No? Okay. Mr. Chate, is going to be a 3,500 signature bond through pretrial services, level 1. No further violent contact with Kaylin Orton. He can communicate with her, but if she doesn't want any contact with him, he needs to turn around and walk away. Within 30 days of being released on a signature bond, he will enroll in a domestic violence intervention program. This is a 26-week program for domestic violence classes, and you would have to attend and complete each class at your expense without skipping any of them. You report to pretrial once a month, and you're not to consume any illegal drugs, no alcohol, and you're not allowed by law and by this order to not own and possess any firearms and any weapons. He will be subject to random screens for illegal drugs and or alcohol. Thank you.
Your Honor, break that bond down.
2,500 and 1,000.
Thank you.
Number 6, Golden.
This is Lance Golden, accused of theft by taking from January 17th of this year, 25 CR 993C. Mr. Golden, you've been advised of your rights. Your attorney is Mr. Chate. Any priors?
20. On probation and card for theft by taking. Got an open theft by taking in Gwinnett. Open battery DV in Fulton. Open shoplifting in DeKalb. 2025 probation. 2012 drug possession conviction.
Thank you. Ms. Tucker?
Yes, Judge, we'd be asking for a $1,500 good bond with conditions no further violent contact with Asia Ross. The facts allege that this victim asked the defendant to leave her apartment, but he wouldn't go away, so she stepped into another room to call 911. He then left and took her keys with him. She did find her car key in her parked car outside, but he took several keys, the key to her apartment, key to her mailbox, key to her job. We were able to speak with this victim. She did confirm they're not in a relationship. They don't live together. They do share one child, however. She just was being polite, let him come over to shower, but when he started being disrespectful, she asked him to leave. She did let us know she got her keys back a few days later. But based on the history, I mean, you heard he's on probation for a theft by taking, a felony theft by taking Cobb. You heard open theft by taking Gwinnett, open battery family violence, open theft by shoplifting. So I do not believe he's a good candidate for a signature bond. So we're asking for that $1,500 good bond with conditions no further violent contact. And Ms. Ross did indicate to us that she would be on if we could sound for her at this time.
Asia Ross. Nope. Mr. Chate?
Yes, Your Honor, I'd like to ask this court to consider the lowest surety amount possible. My client has ties to the community. He's been a resident of Georgia for 4 years. He's 35. He has a high school diploma, has worked in transportation for about the past 2 years. And he also has a 12-year-old son that he takes care of. For those reasons, I ask for the lowest surety amount the court is willing to give.
All right. Bond is set at 1,000. It is a surety bond. No further contact. No further contact with Asia Ross. He's to stay 200 yards away from Miss Ross, stay 200 yards away from where she lives, and have no contact with her and the child he shares with her. He would need to file a legitimation action and get contact through a court order, visitation and custody. All right?
Judge,
And next court date will be March 11th. Do I need to assign another case to March 11th for him?
His open theft by taking is out of Gwinnett.
Oh, here's one, 23 CR
Yes.
3434C.
Judge Law, what is the bond amount, please?
$1,000 surety bond.
Thank you.
All right, so we've got, yeah, we need to reset this other case for Mr. Golden to March 11th unless he makes bond. Case number is 23 CR 003434C.
Number 7, Mr. Grimes.
Jordan Grimes is accused of criminal trespass causing damage to property from May 25th of last year, 25 CR 992Y. Mr. Grimes, you've been advised of your rights and your attorney is Mr. Chate. Any priors?
11. What we got here? Open trespass, disorderly conduct, FTA out of the cab. On probation in Henry County, ag assault. On probation in car burglary in the first degree. Couple of probations from 2023. One from 2 from 2021. 2021 battery DV, trespass, cruelty to children, conviction. 2019 theft by taking conviction. That's
Ms. Tucker?
Yes, Judge, we're asking for a $2,000 good bond with conditions no further contact with Mariah McLaren and to stay away from 3000 Continental Colony Parkway in Atlanta. These facts allege that the defendant had come spend the night at the victim's place. The victim's best friend's baby's father is this defendant. So she let her friend come stay, and her friend in turn brought the defendant. After they spent the night, she asked him to leave the next day. And he did leave originally, but after he left, he wanted to come back in to grab something he forgot, and he kicked and punched the front door, damaging it. We did speak with this victim. She said she had to pay for those damages through the apartment, and so we would eventually be asking for restitution, but at this point, she doesn't live at this incident location anymore, but she would like no additional contact with this defendant. She did let us know she'd be on the Zoom if we could sound for her in a moment, but between the facts alleged as well as that history, I mean, you heard ag assault convictions, these are still on probation for battery family violence conviction, as well as some as recently as criminal trespass as recent as 2024. We're asking for that $2,000 good bond with conditions no further contact with Mariah McLaren. And if we could sound for her, Judge.
Ms. McLaren, if you're on Zoom, this will be the time to unmute. I have someone called Princess Pink, so I have no idea who that is. Okay. Mr. Chate, anything to add?
I would just ask this court to consider a $1,000 surety. My client is 24 years old. He's been a Georgia resident for almost 8 years now. He is currently in school now to finish getting his GED, so he does want to obtain a GED, and he's been working small jobs as of late.
So I'm just looking at the jailing screen and I see he's got a hold in DeKalb County and Henry County. So bond's going to be set at 1,000. It's going to be a surety bond. No further contact with Mariah McLaren. He is, unfortunately, if he makes bond, he won't be able to be released. He would be subject to any of the pending holds that he has right now. So it'll be a release to any pending holds if they exist at the time of being bonded out. He can't be released on his own volition. Next court date is March 11.
Position number 8.
This is State versus Sean Harty, Harty, case number 25CR 994A. Mr. Harty has been accused of reckless conduct and stalking from February 25th, 2025. Mr. Harty, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Mr. Chate. Any priors?
It's fourth arrest, 2012 criminal damage to property conviction. 03 battery conviction. We got history out of Kansas.
All right. Ms. Tucker?
Yes, Judge, we'd be asking for a $3,000 good bond on the reckless conduct and an additional $3,000 on the stalking for a total of $6,000 good bond with conditions no further contact with Rachel George and to stay away from 1802 Liberty Lane, Roswell. The facts allege that officers responded to a welfare check because the defendant had been telling Rachel George, the victim, that he was going to kill himself. Now, all the neighbors interviewed at this location heard a gunshot from the apartment about 8:30 that morning, and he eventually told the victim, Miss George, that he had fired a round that morning trying to hurt himself. He told her it was her fault. He also showed up at her work, showed up at her residence, and left her very afraid for her safety. You did hear he's got a history out of Kansas, so I don't believe he's got strong ties to Georgia. Based on the facts alleged, I think there's a high risk of reoffense as well as that flight risk. We're asking for that $6,000 total good bond with condition no further contact with Rachel George.
Mr. Chate?
Yes, Your Honor. I just asked for the lowest reasonable surety amount for Mr. Harty. He's 41. He is a recent resident of Georgia. He's been here for about under a month, and he has a GED. And he also runs a tattoo shop outside of Kansas City. So he's between the two cities. But my understanding is that he does live in Atlanta, in the Atlanta area. He has a residence here. I would also ask the court to consider having him go on no further violent contact instead of no further contact, because the 1802 Liberty Lane address is the only address he has here.
It's going to be $2,000 on each count. That's a $4,000 surety bond. No further contact with Rachel George. He will have to find a separate location, 1802 Liberty Lane in Roswell, Georgia. He'll have to update the court within 30 days of his new address. He cannot return to that location. He is to have no contact with Rachel George, no illegal drugs, no alcohol, and no weapons and firearms. And if he does make bond, he is required to undergo either a behavioral or a mental health evaluation and submit himself to and be compliant with all treatment and counseling. If he does leave the state, he's required to maintain a current address with the court so that we can send him notice of when to come back to court for his next appearance. Thank you. And I don't know if you all want to consider a social worker visit at this juncture, but it would be. Mr. Chate, if just one warranted?
I spoke with him, and I don't think one is warranted. But if the court thinks it's necessary, then we can.
I think so.
Have a social worker visit. Okay.
Given the allegations, I think that would be wise.
Okay.
Number 10, Johnson.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hardy's next court date is March 11. This is Nakia Johnson, accused of willful obstruction of an officer, battery, and criminal trespass from February 21st, 2025. Accusation is 25 CR 996G. Mr. Johnson, you've been advised of your rights. Your attorney is Mr. McLean. Any priors?
All right, bear with me. It's a lot. 52 total. Open trespass out of Union City on probation in Carroll County, DUI. Clayton County terrorist threats. Rockdale County trespass. Got two FTAs from last year, 2 from 2023, 1 from 2022, 2023 obstruction, simple battery conviction, 2023 trespass conviction, and a 2014 FTA.
Ms. Allen?
Thank you. This is an incident from the 21st of February, this year, 2025. Police responded to apartment 7303 at 5150 Thompson Road. This also included, and the main victim is the resident of unit 7304, the neighbor. Her name is Mrs. Hitchcock. Felicia Hitchcock. Police responded to the location. The call initially was that the defendant had returned to Sherry Harrell's house. She reported that her ex-boyfriend had come to the location and was unwanted, was not supposed to be there and had been asked to leave, and that there was a altercation. She was outside, Mrs. Harrell was, the ex-girlfriend of this defendant. When police got there, flagged them down, brought them to the incident location and reported that the defendant was inside, that her neighbor, Felicia Hitchcock, were arguing, and he had assaulted her. Police documents describe him as behaving in an irate manner there at the location. Officers made entry to the unit 7303. The location is Sherry Harrell's address next door to where Mrs. Felicia Hitchcock lives. And they observed a young woman with a hammer. That's Miss Harrell's granddaughter, September, holding a hammer, arguing with the defendant, as well as Mrs. Felicia Hitchcock. Officers ordered the young lady to drop the hammer and for everyone to calm down. The defendant refused to exit and speak to police and de-escalate. He approached the two women, Mrs. September Harrell and Felicia Hitchcock, in an aggressive manner there in front of police, and they had to detain him and take him outside. He was in possession of a knife in the right pocket of his, or the left pocket of his pants, Your Honor. Police were also allowed to view a surveillance video showing some of what had happened. Mrs. Felicia Hitchcock had swelling and bruising to the right eye area and the side of her head. She reported that there'd been a disagreement when the defendant arrived. He'd started to argue with her. She tried to walk away, and he grabbed her by her hair and pulled her back into the apartment. She pushed him off. She noticed he had a firearm in his pants pocket. She took the firearm and removed it from him. Her granddaughter was present for this, Mrs. September Harrell, the granddaughter of Mrs. Harrell, the girlfriend of this gentleman, was present. She reported that the defendant forced his way into the location. Mrs. Hitchcock reported she was trying to get the defendant to leave when he assaulted her. He struck her, and while he was detained and being arrested, the property manager at the location requested that he be criminally trespassed. We have left messages for the victims this morning and have not had a chance to get in touch with them yet successfully. If you'd sound for them, Mrs. Harrell and Ms. Hitchcock. But we're asking for a $6,000 surety based on his extensive criminal history and failures to appear. That was his last arrest in October. No contact with either victim, Mrs. Harrell or Mrs. Hitchcock, Felicia Hitchcock. No drugs, alcohol, or weapons, and to stay away from that location, 5150 Thompson Road. That's apartment 7303 and 7304. Thank you.
Felicia Hitchcock, or, and I'm sorry, what was the other name? Harold?
Yes, Your Honor, Sherry Harrell.
Sherry Harold. If you on Zoom, this will be your time to unmute and start your video. All right. Mr. McLean?
Your Honor, Mr. Johnson is 50. He's lived in Georgia all his life. His address is nearby, but I think across the street, got 5151. So if it's odd even, that would be across the road. DHL warehouse is where he works now, and he if he misses work for 3 days, they're going to let him go. He's concerned about that. He asked the court to consider the lowest bond possible under these circumstances. He is a high school graduate of Mount Zion High School in Carroll County, Carrollton, Georgia. And he primarily does warehouse work. But if the court would allow him a signature bond, that would be super. But if the court would not, then the lowest possible surety bond would be appreciated.
This was a bind over from the Union City Municipal Court. Mr. Johnson also took a plea for trespass and was released from the Fulton County Jail just last October. And given his significant arrest cycle, his bond for the willful obstruction is $500, for the criminal trespass is $500, and for the battery is $2,000. His total bond is going to be $3,000. This is a surety bond. No further contact with Felicia Hitchcock. No further contact with Sherry Harold. To stay away from the entire apartment complex at 5150 Thompson Road in Fairburn, Georgia. You're allowed a one-time visit to your apartment with a police officer escorting you to remove your personal belongings. Within 30 days of being released, you must update the court with your new address. Your next court date is going to be March 11. Thank you. I don't know, Mariah McLaren and Asia's iPhone. I think we've already addressed those cases. So you would need to contact the Victim Advocate's Office to get an update of those cases. Otherwise, you're free to go.
Number 11, Mahoney.
This is Brandon Mahoney, accused of reckless conduct, battery, family violence, and theft by taking from February 8th, 2025. Case number 25CR1001H. Mr. Mahoney, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Mr. McLean. Any priors, please?
Ninth arrest. Got an open fleeing and officer hit and run. That's out of Clark County. Open case in Fulton for false imprisonment. It's 24 PI 008924. Open financial transaction card theft 24 PI 002850. Open shoplifting in Barrow County. Forsyth County got open shoplifting. 2022 ag assault, stalking, false imprisonment, pointing pistol at another. That case was dismissed. That's it.
Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an incident from February the 8th, 2025 at about 9:55 p.m. Police were called to the complex, specifically 527 Woodland Court in Union City. That's a complex that is located at 7000 Goodson Road. And that's significant because when the defendant was released on bond for that false imprisonment that's open in Superior Court, he was ordered to have no contact with this victim, no physical contact, in-person contact, and to stay away from that location. So he's in violation of the bond on 24 PI 008924, just based on today's incident in front of the court. So at about 10 o'clock on the 2nd or the 8th of February, police responded to the location where they met with the victim. Her name is Ayana Piku, P-I-C-O-U. I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing it correctly. She and the defendant share 2 children. She reported that the defendant had come to the location. They argued. He grabbed her. He threw her to the ground. She asked him to leave. He grabbed her phone and took it with him when he exited the location. He got into his vehicle and she went over to the vehicle and sat on the hood of the vehicle, at which point he started the vehicle and drove off, causing her to fall off the vehicle, which is the reckless conduct, Your Honor. You did hear that he's got felony shoplifting out of Forsyth County, 12 years of probation that he was given this year in 2024 in April. Since then, he's had numerous arrests for shoplifting, that false imprisonment, as well as the open financial transaction card theft and fraud. We did speak with the victim today. She reported that she and the defendant are no longer in a relationship and do not live together, that they share a 1-year-old and a 2-month-old. She reported that what happened in the incident and in the notes and documents from police actually happened. She corroborated that. She said he became angry because, of course, he thought she was talking to someone else and took her phone and tried to leave. She said he actually just showed up at her house after this incident on February the 14th, trying to come through her window. And that's when she received her phone back. She did tell us about their open case. And she's asking for no contact and a stay away. Not that the defendant has been able to abide by that at this point. If you would call for the victim, Mrs. Ayana Piku, we're asking for a $9,000 cash bond, Your Honor, to stay away again from the complex at 7000 Goodson Road, and specifically her address, 527 Woodland Court in Union City. No contact with her whatsoever or her children, no drugs, alcohol, or weapons. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Pico, if you want to address this hearing, you would need to unmute and start your video. Otherwise, you have a right to just let the prosecutor speak on your behalf.
Yes, I did say about a third party for the transportation of the kids.
What about it?
Like for him to see his kids, like his mom or dad or somebody, like picking them up through me.
Well, we'll think about that. Anything else?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Please mute your screen and switch your video off. Thank you. Mr. McLean?
Thank you, Your Honor. Brandon Mahoney is a Georgian all his life. He graduated in Washington, Georgia, in Wilkes County from Washington-Wilkes High School. He does warehouse work and has continuously worked from 2020 to this past December at one warehouse. He is currently unemployed and about to get another warehouse job, I believe. He asked the court to consider setting a bond as low as possible, a signature bond if possible, but if that's not in the offing, then he would ask the court to give him a surety bond that would be low, like $1,000 or $2,000. His Gardenwood Drive, so he doesn't, of course, live at Woodland Court. I would like to note that. Thank you.
On the reckless conduct is $1,500, the battery family violence is $1,500, and the theft by taking is $500. This is a $3,500 surety bond. No further contact with Ayana Pico. He is to stay 200 yards away from her and the children that he shares with her. He's not to have any contact with them. He can file a legitimation action in the appropriate superior court and get a court order to establish paternity, visitation, and custody. But until that is happening, he is not allowed to have any contact with her and the children. He's also to stay away from 527 Woodland Court. And what was the other one? 7000 Goodson?
Yes, Your Honor, that's the address of the actual complex. Her address within the complex is that 527
Okay.
Woodland Court Street.
Well, he's required to stay away from the entire complex, so he's not allowed to even enter the complex property.
Thank
No
you.
illegal drugs, no alcohol, no weapons, and his next court date will be March 11th. Thank you.
Number 12, Newkirk.
Bryant Newkirk is accused of theft by taking from February 25th of this year. Case number is 25 CR 995E. Mr. Newkirk, you've been advised of your rights, and your attorney is Mr. McLean. Any priors?
41. On probation for 3 counts of ag assault, 1 count shoplifting, 17 SC 154447. 2024, 2022, 2021 probation, 2019-18 probation, 2017 robbery arrest. I'm not sure what that disposition was. 2017 parole violation. They got more parole violations.
Thank you. Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an incident from yesterday, the 25th of February at about 11 in the morning. The location and the victim is the Welcome Home or Welcome House at 234 Memorial Drive Southwest. Police were called on the report of a theft. On scene, they met with the property manager, Mr. Bakery, who reported that the defendant had taken a microwave from the common area of the location and left with it. They then showed officer surveillance of the defendant going into the common area, unplugging the microwave, and then exiting with it. He was arrested shortly thereafter with the, I'm not sure whether the microwave was actually in his possession. Your Honor, he's got a significant criminal history you just heard about. They do include many thefts, but many forgeries as well. But for the most part, the most serious is that aggravated assault that he is currently maybe still on probation for from 2017. It was maybe a 12-year sentence. I can't remember right now. It looks like in 2023, he just was confined for a year as a result of a probation violation. We're asking for $1,000 surety to stay away from that location, Welcome House at 234 Memorial Drive Southwest. No contact with anyone there at the location, especially the property manager there, Mr. Bakery, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons.
Right. Mr. McLean, your client would like to say something. Courtroom 2. Mr. Newcott, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you.
I wanted to say that on the she talking about the parole. I'm been out parole for years. I'm not on parole or any type of probation at this time at all. My record is clean on that and everything. The only thing I did do, just like I said, I did take the microwave out of the kitchen and put it into my room at the time. Then another individual did use it, but I did not mean any harm at that time. And I'm also in the process of moving to another apartment this week because I up on Edgewood. I have been already approved for that now. And I don't have no type of violence intent. And if I do be released and I can get out on a central bond or whatever, I don't have no problem with no one at my apartment. It is something I did without thinking, Your Honor.
Mr. McLean, anything else to add?
All righty then. Bryant Newkirk is 51 years old. He has been associated with PAD in the past, and he's waiting for his disability check to be approved. Your Honor, he has also been approved to move to a different group home. It's on Edgewood, so that's going to be really quickly. We would ask the court to consider a signature bond because of the charge. We understand the past is problematic, certainly, but we would ask the court to consider a signature bond. If not that, then the 1,000 surety bond mentioned.
1,000 surety. Next court date is March 11th. Stay away from the Welcome House at 234 Memorial Drive and have no contact with the staff members. Mr. Newkirk, I appreciate your admission of guilt. However, you got to also keep in mind you have 41 arrest cycles on your criminal history record with multiple probation violations. And yes, you have previously been on parole many times. Your record is not clean. Unmute courtroom 2. I'm not having a debate about your record, sir. I'm just saying that with 41 arrest cycles, you show a high likelihood to reoffend. So the bond is $1,000 surety.
Oh, it's not. I don't get no kind of credit saying that I am trying to do things right about getting my own place and as got other things going on good for myself.
Right. Once you make your bond and you comply with the conditions, I'm sure you'll start your progress to make things right.
What is the surety bond?
You have to go through a bonding company. They charge between 10 to. Then I'll see you in court on March 11th.
Number 16, Simmons.
Marquez Pierre Simmons is accused of battery, family violence, cruelty to children in the 3rd degree, and criminal trespass causing interference with possession. This is from February 23rd, 2025, case number 25 CR 1000G. All right, so we're on a 1000th accusation here for this new year. So, Mr. Simmons, you have a right to remain silent. Anything you say in open court, your statements can and will be used against you. And your appointed counsel is Mr. McLean. Any priors?
5. 2024 battery DV. 2021 simple battery DV. 2018 battery conviction. That's it.
Your Honor, this is an incident from the 23rd of February. It is a bindover from Union City. Police responded to 4712 Flat Shoals Road, which is the defendant's address where he lives with the victim in this case, Tiana Thomaston. Apartment 2110 specifically. The victim called 911 and reported that during an argument, the defendant snatched her phone from her. They share children. She walked away from him and he grabbed her and then struck her in the mouth. She was seen to have visible bruising on her lip and around her mouth. She reported that he continued to strike her and she received blows on her body as she was trying to avoid him, and that they lived together. Her 3-year-old son, initials AS, was present for this assault. The defendant was arrested. You did hear he's got a prior battery conviction in 2018. He'd been ordered to have anger management. It's not with the same victim. And he does have a 2024 battery arrest. We did try to reach out and get in touch with Mrs. Thomason today, but we were not successful. We're asking for a $6,000 surety. No contact with Mrs. Thomason or her child or children. Stay away from that address. He will need a one-time escort, and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons.
What? Mr. McLean?
Thank you, Your Honor. Marquise Simmons has lived in Georgia all his life. His address is over on Flat Shoals Road, 9101 unit number. I was able to get hold of his family. He's a high school graduate from Therrell High School. And he works in, he deals with medical and hospital equipment and does warehouse work, and has done mostly warehouse work, and has also worked in a tire shop. So he's quite industrious. And we would ask the court to consider the lowest bond possible. And if that could be a signature bond, that would be good. Otherwise, the lowest surety bond that's available. Thank you.
Thank you. On the battery family violence, that's going to be a $2,500 surety bond. On the cruelty, that's going to be a $1,500 signature bond through pretrial services, level 3. And the criminal trespass is going to be $1,500 signature bond through pretrial services, level 3. So this is going to be a total of a $5,500 split bond. Mr. Simmons, what this means is that you have to pay on the portion of $2,500 either out of your own pocket or through a bonding company. And then the remainder $3,000 signature bond through pretrial, you can sign up for that portion of the bond. You will report to pretrial services once a week. Once you pay your other portion, you are to enroll in a domestic violence intervention program within 30 days of being released and attend all classes at your expense. You are to have no further contact with Tiana Thomaston, no further contact with the children, and you're to stay away from 4712 Flat Shoals Road, the entire complex. You're allowed to go there one time only with a police officer to retrieve your belongings. And then you need to update the court with your new address within 30 days. If Ms. Thomaston has vacated the premises, then you may be allowed to return to the location. But if she still lives there, then you will need to find a different place to stay. Next court date is going to be March 11.
Per judge.
Thank you. Mariah McLaren, please unmute and start your video. We've already addressed that case, so.
Hi.
Ms. McLaren, we've already addressed your case. Please contact the Victim Advocate's Office and they'll give you an update.
Okay, thank you, ma'am.
And the other one, Asia's iPhone, I thought we already addressed that one too. Asia's iPhone. All right, the host can remove Mariah McLaren and Asia's iPhone from the Zoom? Okay. In courtroom 2, who do we have?
Number 1, Bishop.
Right. This is Marcellus D. Bishop, accused of simple battery, family violence, simple battery against an officer, and criminal trespass from case number 25 CR 987G. This is from February 25th of this year, and he has been advised of his right to remain silent, and the attorney is going to be Mr. Chatay. Ms.
Yeah,
King, please
I
close your video, and I'll allow you to come on when we call you. Thank you.
12
Is that-
total.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chatay, is that your client?
Yes, Your Honor. So I was thinking of having a social worker visit him and potentially resetting him for tomorrow, given the allegations in the affidavit for arrest. But I was told by my social worker I will be able to talk to him. So I need to speak with him before we continue.
Call court 2 at 404-612-2060, please.
Okay.
Next case, please.
Your Honor, I've received a couple of waivers,
Oh, which ones?
positions 9 and 15.
All right, let's go with position 9. Beverly Jewell, who is representing her?
Mr.
I-
McLean.
Okay. We are addressing position number 9, 25 CR 989H. Beverly Jewell is accused of willful obstruction of an officer and criminal trespass from February 25th of this year, and represented by attorney Mike McLean, who's filed a waiver of her presence. Any priors, Mr. Howard?
Fourth arrest. Last arrest was in 1981.
All right, thank you. Ms. Allen?
Thank you, Your Honor. This was a call to the Midtown Emory Hospital at 550 Peachtree Street Northeast yesterday, the 25th of February, at about 3 p.m. Documents note that the defendant had been discharged from the location at 4 a.m., so 3 p.m. later that day, she's still at the location refusing to leave. She'd been asked repeatedly to leave, had been told she'd been discharged and she needed to leave the ER. Police responded. They also asked her to leave. They offered to give her a ride somewhere. She had somewhere she wanted to go. They asked her to leave the property multiple times and she refused. When she was eventually detained and arrested, she was told to put her hands behind her back. And at that point, she used both of her hands to hold her cane like a sword and raised it up as if she was going to strike an officer. And that's when someone intervened. That's the obstruction, Your Honor. She's not following verbal commands. Her fingers had to be removed individually from the cane as she gripped it. We're just asking for a social worker visit, Your Honor, $1,000 SOB through pretrial, and to stay away from the location unless there's an emergency.
Mr. McLean? Any objection? Stay away?
That's what I was going to ask for. No objection.
It's going to be $500 on each count. This is going to be $1,000 signature bond through the jail. Stay away from Midtown Emory Hospital unless she has got a doctor's appointment or she's seeking emergency treatment. Thank you.
And of course, we will have a social worker visit, Your Honor. I understand the reason they wanted her to be considered for a waiver of presence is her vision's so bad they were afraid she was going to fall down.
Okay. Position number 15. We have Hamza Ibn Santiago, accused of theft by shoplifting from February 23rd of this year. Accusation 25 CR 999A. Counsel is going to be Mr. McLean, who has filed a waiver of his appearance. Any priors?
15. On probation in the care for burglary. On probation in Gwinnett, burglary 2nd degree. 2025 probation. I think he went to felony earlier for 3 counts of burglary. 2022 probation, 2020 theft by taking conviction, 2015 theft by taking conviction, and burglary convictions from 2013 and 12.
Thank you. Ms. Allen?
Your Honor, this is a case out of East Point at the Walmart at 844 Cleveland Avenue. It takes place February the 23rd at about 8 p.m. The defendant was inside the location. An off-duty officer was present at the location as well. He was made aware by loss prevention that there was a gentleman inside taking items and had been seen shoplifting. The defendant went to exit the building without paying for the items he had on him. He was found to be in about $43 worth of items on his person, household items. He does have a significant history. The first appearance, I believe, is 3 separate burglary cases, Your Honor. We're asking for $1,000 surety to stay away from that Walmart and no drugs, alcohol, or weapons.
Mr. McLean, any objection?
I think, did the state say surety?
Yes.
Yes, I thought so. Your Honor, we would ask the court to consider a signature bond. We do realize he has the other cases. They are burglaries in the 2nd degree, I believe. Primarily because the amount is $43. We would ask the court to give him a break on this because he's got those other fish to fry. And
Well,
he is.
the other fish to fry are multiple open felony cases, a probation violation, and apparently a hold in Gwinnett. So
True.
it's $1,000 surety. Stay away from all Walmart stores, including the one at Cleveland Avenue. Next court date's March 11th. All right, moving back to position 1, Mr. Bishop. Mr. Chate, how would you like to proceed?
We'll go forward with the hearing as usual.
All right. So Marcellus Bishop is accused of simple battery, family violence, criminal trespass, and simple battery against a police officer, 25 CR 987G. He's been advised of his right to remain silent, and his attorney is Mr. Chate. Mr. Howard, how many cycles did you indicate?
12. Open obstruction, trespass in state court, simple battery in state court, probation for ag assault in Superior Court, 2025 FTA, 2024 trespass, simple battery against police conviction, 2021 terrorist threats, first offender, 2023 trespass conviction.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Tucker?
Yes, Judge, we'd be asking for $1,000 good bond on each charge for a total of $3,000 good bond with conditions no further violent contact with Priscilla Safel. These facts allege that his mother, Miss Safel, called 911 because the defendant was having an MH crisis and she wanted him to get some medical help. She said if he's not receiving the treatment he needs, then he's not welcome at her home. He was then told to leave and refused to leave. When officers came and started to detain him, he kicked his mother in the back, causing her to fall over. He also spit on Officer Hurd. We were able to speak with the victim in this case, the mother of the defendant. She confirmed these events in the warrant, but she just wanted him to get help. She says he has the mind of a child. She believes he needs help. She does want contact and she does want him to return home because he has nowhere else to go if he cannot come back. However, based on his history, he does not qualify for the mental health court, and he's got, just significant history, convictions as recent as 2025, criminal trespass out of Clayton County. He's got a 2024 simple battery against law enforcement conviction out of Clayton County, as well as an FTA. So, we are asking for that $3,000 total good bond with conditions no further violent contact. I do believe the victim is on the call and she would like to speak.
That is Priscilla Safel? Right?
Yes.
All right, Ms. Safel,
Hello?
if you to unmute, please.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. You need to start your video.
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
You need, yeah, okay, there we go.
Hello?
Yes, Ms. Safel, we can hear you.
Hi. Hi,
All
Your
right, raise,
Honor. Good,
fine.
good
Raise your right
afternoon.
hand.
No, as you personally see, I
Oh, okay.
got
Well,
braced. I just got out the hospital.
do you solemnly swear and affirm the testimony you provide will be the truth to the best of your knowledge?
I do.
All right. And what would you like to tell us?
Can you, I love Marcellus, and with him coming from Virginia State custody, coming to Atlanta with current racking up all these charges from his mental health. He came from Virginia with mental health diagnosis ordered by the court for the state custody he was placed in, foster future program. So if you do that history, like I kept explaining to the courts from when the first incident happened, I need help with getting this mental health reestablished as Virginia had it before him coming down here. He was more stable when he came. I guess the medication they had him on. He hasn't received any more medication, any more mental health. Just been kidnapped, sex trafficked, and that's how he ends up in all these different places from Clayton County to Cobb County to Gwinnett County. I get calls all times of night, morning, being threatened that they're gonna kill him if I don't receive money for him. I have called law enforcement. I have done so much throughout this course that when I asked for mental health to come and take him from my home the other night, I did not want him to go to jail. I did not want any trouble. I did not want any problems for him. Only thing I wanted was him to get the help he needed in the manic state he came back to my house from after he left the probation office. And when we went to, after he just got out of jail recently, that's the only thing that he does is spend more time in jail than he does in my home.
I'm not sure what you're asking me, Ms. Safel, but
I'm asking for mental health to be in place and him to be in mental health court and to get the mental health that he needs instead of constantly just racking up these charges and just holding him in jail, being mistreated, where he thinks he has to fight officers every time he see him from the way he's been handled, mistreated himself. So that's why I said we need to try to work together and to try to let him know the officers, the courts, we're here for safe for him to know that he doesn't need to be in the streets. He doesn't have to be sex trafficked. He doesn't have to be abused. He doesn't have to be drugged. He has a loving home that I have given him, and I just need resources and help because I've been hit by a car on my birthday, March 20th, 2024. Now, since the recent incident, I was just out of the hospital. Now I got new braces, as you see on my arm and my leg from this recent incident with Marcellus when I just needed mental health to just take him. But they was like, since he says no, he's 20, they're not going to grant it. So instead, it was more forced to say, hey, you have to go, and they were going to try to take him to jail. He was indecent at the time, and that's how I got kicked, in my stomach, not in my back. It was in my front. I was on my crutches. So I want to clear that up. I
so
was
he
trying
kicked
to
you
zip
in the
his
stomach
pants
while you were on
up.
crutches.
Huh?
So you're telling me that he kicked you in the stomach while you were on crutches?
Right, as I was trying to zipping his pants up because the officers were trying to detain him with his pants still unzipping because he was on my couch in the living room when they came in.
Okay.
And he had been laying down. So it was already a situation that had happened with Walmart waking him up. I had a delivery trying to get us food that earlier that day since he just arrived back at my home.
Mr. Fell, how does he travel? How does when he goes out?
He walks. He just walks out.
So he goes unescorted.
Yes, and that's how he gets taken
So
by
he
others.
goes outside and we don't know whether he's compliant with his medication.
No, I don't know
Okay.
what he's being
Okay,
given
so
by others.
that's problem number one. Whether he's self-sufficient enough to be compliant, that's problem number one. So we're gonna have to address that one step at a time. There is no ready fix for this particular situation. I don't have a magic box that I can open up and it'll get an instant solution. Okay? All right. Ms. Tucker, you were recommending a surety bond. Mr. Chate, is he a candidate for the 11 a.m. competency calendar, or should he be placed for, I don't know, like you said, he's not qualified for mental health court.
Well, I was able to speak with him. I have the impression that he knows what's going on, and he was able to help me along and answer my interview questions so that I could represent him today.
Okay.
And my social worker informed me that that I could do the interview. So I'm not sure if putting him on the competency calendar is the right thing to do here.
Okay, that's all. I just need some information about which track we're going. But what
Okay.
else would you like to tell me?
Just request the most reasonable surety value for his case. He has ties to the state now. He's been here for the past 2 or 3 years, is my understanding, based on what he told me. He got through school as far as the 9th grade. He's trying to enroll in a GED program currently, and he's also trying to find employment. And he's 20 years of age.
Okay, thank you. On each count is going to be $500. The total bond is going to be $1,500. It is a surety bond. No further violent contact with Priscilla Safel. And if he makes bond, he'll be required to enroll in an appropriate mental or behavioral health program and be compliant with all treatment and medication. He is subject to a curfew of 5 p.m. to 9 a.m. every day. And he must be compliant with his medication treatment. If he steps outside, he must make sure that he is compliant with his treatment and medication so there are no further future episodes. Next court date is March 11th. And Ms. Bridgewater, we're going to place his other 2 cases on March 11th.
What are those cases, Your Honor?
24 CR 003830G, 24 CR 003930G. These are the
39. Repeat that second one, please.
3930G.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right. See now, I don't think we have Deputy, position number 5, Deshae Gibson. Do we know what's the situation?
Your Honor, he has been a behavior reset, I know, for at least 3 hearings.
But I think he went to a felony hearing yesterday. Because I think the judge gave him a $20,000 bond.
He was on the 24th and yesterday and was reset for medical the first day and behavioral the second day. I believe maybe behavioral both. So.
All right. Well, Mr. Chate or Mr. McLean, have either one of you attempted to communicate with him?
I did. It was yesterday or the day before. I don't remember, but just based on that conversation for today, I sent a social worker to visit him. I don't know what his status is or how he's doing, but since we've reset him so many times already, and since I really struggled to get through the interview with him, I'm contemplating asking to put him on the competency calendar at this point. But that's depending on what the social worker tells me about his state.
Okay. Please give us more concrete information more concrete decision. If you decide to put him on the 11 a.m. competency, we need a waiver of presence. So this is going to be a final reset to 2/27. It'll be before, I can't recall, I think it's Judge Morrow.
It is.
And let him know whether you want to put him on the competency calendar or whether you want him to just simply be processed through in person if he shows up.
All right.
Okay. Deputy, do you have any other cases in there? Otherwise, I'm just going to go down my calendar right now.
Your Honor,
Hmm.
I'm sorry. Mr. Marquise Simmons, who was position number 16, I did go look and see his other case, the arrest or incident from March of this year was a battery family violence against the same victim. I went ahead and filed that down. It is a bind over, so he was in court in Union City and has a bond, but if you want to bring him out, we can address that. I've asked for a CR number and I sent a email to the clerk and Ms. Bridgewater and Ms. Strong.
So you've got a new case against him?
I did just go ahead and file it. Yep. So you gave him a $5,500 split bond. If he makes that, he'll be reset, but he'll have two cases. I'm not sure if you want to have him brought out so he can hear this now or.
Mr. Marquise, Deputy, do you have Marquise Simmons available? I'm not hearing anything from courtroom 2. If not, we can reset him for tomorrow to address his new case. I don't know whether he'll bond out by tomorrow. Okay. All right. Position number 1, Bishop was a $1,500 surety bond reset to March 11. No further violent contact, and he's going to be reset to March 11 along with his 2 other open cases. Position 2, Duncan is a $6,000 surety bond, I believe.
It's a 12,000.
Oh, 12,000.
3,000 on each charge.
That's right. Okay. So that's a $12,000 surety bond. Reset date is March 11th. Jonathan Easter is a 2,500 signature bond through pretrial level 1. Evans is a 3,500 signature bond through pretrial level 1. Gibson is reset to tomorrow's C calendar at 2 p.m. Position 5, Golden is a $1,000 surety bond. And I think we are resetting him with another case, right?
Yes, 23 CR 003434C. Do I have that correct? Okay.
Yes. Position 7, Grimes is a $1,000 surety bond reset to March 11th. Position 8, Harty is a $4,000 surety bond reset to March 11th. Position 9, Jewel is a $1,000 signature bond through the jail. Position 10, Johnson is a $3,000 surety bond reset to March 11th. Position 11, Mahoney is a 3,500 surety bond reset to March 11th. 12, Newkirk is a $1,000 surety reset to March 11th. 13, Royalston is a 4,500 signature bond through pretrial level 1. 14, Ruffin is a 5,000 signature bond through pretrial level 2. 15, Santiago is a $1,000 surety. Reset date is March 11. 16, Simmons is a $5,500 split bond, 2,500 surety, and 3,000 signature bond through pretrial level 3. And we will reset him to 227 to address his new accused case.
What's number 9?
Position number 9.
$1,000 signature bond through the jail and a social worker visit.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, folks, thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
On Friday. Take care.